It happens to thousands of people. According to Spanish law, even if the bank keeps your house because you can't afford it anymore, if it has lost much of its value, you still owe the bank the rest of the outstanding debt.
They always do it to suit them, and if it doesn't suit them, they redo it. That's why we have to change the laws here, on the street.
Belonging to a party means obtaining a certain carte blanche. You can get the third degree. You can get legal support so your crimes surpass the statute of limitations. You can count on amicable judges.
You have to accept that someone, for crimes committed or minor crimes, has tried to re-enter society and has to go back to jail after several years because they have to strictly comply with the law, while others launder millions and no one finds out about it. Create B-lists and no one knows about them. Someone will say there is no record of it, so there's no problem.
Political parties, especially right-wing parties, are a business formula. If you want to understand everything about the popular party or their competition, it's much more interesting for them to read The Godfather than reading The Spirit of Laws by Montesquieu.
We're waiting to receive the subsidy from the Andalusian government, which we should have received at the end of 2012, because payments are received annually, and we're still waiting to receive the payment.
The explanation that they gave us from the social welfare was that there was less money budgeted for the physically impaired. So there was a 40% general cutback on the physically impaired, physical, mental, and sensor impairments.
There are a lot of families who need this center. We're obviously affected, but these children, where would they go? Where would the 80 families that we're working with go?
Practically every day there are reports in the media on cases of corruption among Spanish politicians. They affect almost all the political parties and all the administrations, central, autonomous and local. Some of the most famous investigations are the Gürtel case, where 200,000 euros disappeared. The Palmarena case with 100 million euros and a condemned president. The popular Jaume Matas and the Payeros case with 380 million euros, the Pretoria case with 45 million, and the Noose case with a member of the royal family involved, Iñaki Urdangarin. But the list is much longer, including almost all the communities of Spain. The Spanish Treasury controls quite accurately the workers, self-employed and small companies. But there is a sector that gets away from them, a sector that usually has continuous business with administration.
The investigations are failing. The Treasury should get more involved in promoting investigation, inspection, and of course focus on the large fraud markets that are not found in the SMEs or in the self-employed, and of course not in those who perceive job returns, but in the large companies and the big wealth.
Spain is one of the countries of the European Union with the highest number of cases of corruption among politicians. In 2012, there were 800 public and political positions accused of being involved in cases of corruption.
A democracy as the one in Spain that has been installed for years still doesn't have the law of transparency, and this is not comparable to any of the European countries around us, where for years they have had these mechanisms in place for transparency, where in Spain they don't exist. The same debate on the budget law is a public debate in Great Britain. In other countries, in Germany, the citizens, they always follow it with interest. In Spain, up until these times of crisis, we haven't been very concerned about where our tax money goes. Maybe it's due to this perception that there's such major corruption, squandering, and this, of course, has to change.
Pursuing politicians and their parties is very difficult because the law doesn't allow for sanctioning them.
The truth is, the National Audit Office is, according to law on financing political parties, that carries out this control. But in the end, these reports about the political parties or politicians have to be approved by the parties themselves in the courts or Congress, in the mixed commission National Audit Office. Perhaps this is something that should be restructured.
All political parties, when they come into office, promise to make changes and pursue these situations more harshly. But normally they are just empty promises.
Many cases are arising and they are showing a weakness in terms of how the control bodies function. I insist again on expense control. In these cases being mentioned, there is always public contracting. When they are legally doubtful, they should be cleared beforehand, and this is done by using more efficient and more effective systems of control, and through a control of public expenses.
The truth is, the National Audit Office is the government body that should control the irregularities in the political party accounts. The problem is, the last report published covers data from 5 years ago. Crimes of illegal financing surpass the statute of limitations after 4 years, so bringing them to court is impossible once they are revealed.
The delays in subsidy payments by the Andalusian government, together with the gradual cutbacks, is making many associations for early age care of physically impaired children have a difficult time in keeping their doors open. Today on the street is in Malaga to learn about the Aspa Hidev case. The Parents Association for Children with Visual Impairments is an early age care center that offers speech, psychological, and physical therapy. They began by specializing with children with sight problems, but now they care for children with all kinds of development disorders. They exclusively depend on the subsidies granted by the Andalusian government for early age care, and in their case, it's 91,000 euros.
We're waiting to receive the subsidy from the Andalusian government, which we should have received at the end of 2012 because payments are received annually, and we're still waiting to receive the payment. We know that the payment order has been given, and it's in the Treasury, but they haven't deposited it in our account yet.
But this is not the only problem. The subsidy is only for paying the technical staff. Administrative costs depend on a separate economic area that for years has been reduced annually and fast.
There was a reduction in the grant for infrastructures for the administrative staff from 18,000 euros to 3,500 euros. So with this deficit, we practically don't have any way of covering it. Electricity, water, toilet paper. If a bookshelf breaks, it has to be replaced. The administrative staff salary, paper.
Aspa Hidev has been open for 32 years, and for 23, Yolanda has been its administrator, and that's why she knows better than anyone how the reduction in funds was produced and what the consequences are.
In 2009, they granted us 18,000 euros for center maintenance, which includes electricity, telephone, community expenses, consulting, administrative staff, etc. In 2010, we received a 50% reduction in terms of the subsidy, meaning from 18,000 euros, we received 9,000 euros, and so on. In 2011, they granted us 5,000, and this year, the subsidy was 3,500 euros for the same entry. The explanation that they gave us from the social welfare was that there was less money budgeted for the physically impaired sector, so there was a 40% general cutback on the sectors of physical, mental, and sensor impairment. This is the explanation that they gave us. But the truth is, the reduction has been quite considerate, and with 3,500 euros, it's difficult for the center to stay open.
To try to compensate the negative balance of the accounts, they've held parties, children's activities, sold costume jewelry, and have begun offering private slots. But overall, there are two things that are key to staying afloat: donations from parents and a 25% temporary reduction in employee salaries.
We know that this money usually comes in at the end of the year, and the only way to sustain the center, aside from parent donations, is voluntarily we contribute 25% of our salaries to try to defray the costs until the money arrives.
Were you paid last month?
No. In January, we haven't been paid anything, besides owing the staff over 13,000 euros from 2012.
Luis Bárcenas, former senator and treasurer for the Popular Party, had an account with 22 million euros in Switzerland. This account has uncovered one of the most important cases of corruption in Spain. The investigation brought to light the alleged allotment of illegal extra income within the Popular Party. The plot has even tainted the president of the government himself. After 1 week of silence, he decided to deny it all.
It's false. I repeat, never have I distributed dirty money in this party nor anywhere else. Never. I'll say it again. It's false.
But the people didn't believe his words, and protests have begun on the street due to imminent impunity.
You're protecting thieves.
You'll see when your children are in the same situation.
You'll see what happens when you arrive at...
They always do it to suit themselves, and if it doesn't fit them, they redo it. That's why we have to change the laws here, on the street.
This is spontaneous. Here there's no anti-system. The people aren't here to start a fight freely. People who are outraged are here, are fed up with all this and all the thieves.
This is terrible for the Spanish people. It's unbelievable.
The cases of corruption linked to the public administration means the loss of 6,800 million euros over the last decade. 1,000 million more than the Ministry of Defense budget. All these acts were linked to some party.
Today, belonging to a party means obtaining a certain carte blanche. You can get the third degree. You can get legal support for your crimes to surpass the statute of limitations. You can count on amicable judges. With the party you belong to, you can receive envelopes with money that allow you to face any legal proceedings. Political parties, especially right-wing parties, are a business formula. If you want to understand everything about the Popular Party or the Catalan Party Convergence and Union, it's much more interesting for them to read The Godfather than reading The Spirit of Laws by Montesquieu.
Investigation is usually hard. The law doesn't make inspections easy. For example, the Gürtel case cost the examining magistrate Balthazar Garzón his job.
You can't pursue corruption in Spain because the judges form part of the web of corruption. The leadership of the legal system depends on the political parties. You can't be a member of the Supreme Court, of the Constitutional Court, of the governing body of the judiciary. You aren't even eligible for a good post if you don't have the consent of someone in this leadership, who depends on the political party who proposed this person for this position. It's the same with the National Audit Office. The National Audit Office is the Congress, the Senate, the government, who names six, and the district attorney by the government. If these people depend on a political party, how are they going to control the parties?
The experts consider that huge looting of the institutions is based on the Spanish economic model.
The capitalist system always adjusts to the weakest link. So, if through buying public servants, paying money to get contracts, bribing someone to make the paperwork easier, it can be done, then it will be done, since it's in the logic of the system itself. So, pretending that there is an honorable capitalism means searching for adjectives that contradict the logic itself. If you had to choose the characteristic feature of cases like Urdangarin, Bárcenas, Matas, the entire Gürtelnet, in the past the Naseido case or the Filesa case, the Payerols case and the pillaging of the Lyceum by the Catalan government of Convergence and Union, if you look at all this behavior, you can only explain it because these thieves felt they were untouchable. And this lack of punishment is what you get from belonging to the webs of corruption in our country.
Aspaidev attends 80 families, and Carni's family is one of them. Her daughter Mireia has cortical blindness and has been coming to the center since she was 5 months old.
She's learning a lot. She's been here since she was 5 months old, and she evolves every week she comes here. They do vision and mobility exercises with her. After just 1 week, the change was noticeable, and she's starting to see. She can see as far as 1.20 meters because of the exercises they do with her. From not seeing at all to seeing.
Come on, little champ. Here. Good girl. Great.
Pablo is autistic, and that's why he's working with Carolina, the speech therapist, to develop alternative means of communication.
Green peg?
She is one of the 4 employees who for the last year has given up part of their salary.
25% of our salary is contributed to the center. It's true that at the end of the year they pay us, but this year is unsustainable. Our most serious concern and what worries us the most is being able to maintain the center. If we don't have salaries, then we can't do this.
The center's immediate future is up in the air, and that of many children and their families. For those who need early age care, it's their right to receive it.
There are many families who depend on this center. Obviously, we would also be affected, but where would these children go, the 80 families that we're working with here? When you have a child with a deficiency or any kind of handicap, well, the feeling of responsibility is even more extreme than with a normal child.
We went to the Board of Health and Social Welfare of the Andalusia government to try to find out why subsidy payments have been delayed. The delegate wasn't there, but off camera, they tried to explain that the payment order is issued by the Treasury and that it has not been collected before due to a problem of liquidity that has nothing to do with them. In terms of the drop in the entry to cover administrative expenses, they explained to us that it depends on the welfare branch, but we didn't get an answer for the reason behind the drastic cutbacks. All we can do is trust what the government says, and that the Aspaedev accounts will soon receive the 91,000 euros that corresponds to them. If not, the future of these 80 children, as well as the future of many others, could become even darker.
We're in Torrelodones. Here, 9 neighbors who are tired of political party squandering and the alleged cases of corruption took a step forward. With the party Torrelodones neighbors, they took the mayoralty away from the Popular Party, and in less than 2 years have turned things around in the town with a little over 20,000 inhabitants. The origin of the party dates back to the 2007 town elections. They joined the race to fight against the urban development of the previous government. The year before, the town council had been accused of cases of corruption in terms of urban development.
And here specifically, they wanted to reclassify a protected area, legally protected as well, to do what they always do, a golf course, homes. So inside this big power ball were the same faces as always, family members of the mayor. This created a strong neighbor movement, criticizing the issues, reports.
So that's how the party was constituted. In 2007, they earned 4 seats, but that was not enough to enter into power. But in the 2011 elections, they won 9 seats and started to govern as a minority. At that time, they changed from being just neighbors to being governors.
How was the treasury? It wasn't bad, but totally disorganized. A lot of delays in payments for no reason. There was a long-term debt for 10 million, so therefore within the town treasury, it's really good. It's as if you realized you hadn't put your home accounts in order. That's the way things were. There was too much chaos, yes. I always use the example of 2009. This town council was handling a budget, and I was on the opposition, so I know what I'm talking about. A 40 million euro budget. A year and a half later, with Zapatero's plan, you could see this falling. It dropped to 27, and now we have 26. The neighbors here have not felt a thing. They didn't notice that the budget had dropped tremendously, that before 40 million were brought in, and now only 26. Nothing at all, and I think that speaks for itself.
Since they took office, the party has advocated for transparency.
I think they ran into a lot of debt, and so they were reducing costs.
I was happy with the other mayor, too. He was a retiree, and he treated the retirees well.
The government had an important surplus, and I think it's one of the few town councils in Spain that had, during these times with problems, debts, and other things. Here, this hasn't happened.
My team and I are clear on that we are handling money that is not ours. Since it's not our money, you have to account for every last penny you spend because it's not yours. Clearly justify what there is. If you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. Since I have nothing to hide, the more transparent everything is, the better.
One of the other characteristics of the new mayor's office is saving and suppressing what is unnecessary.
I don't need people here in the afternoon earning overtime when I can come and go. I have no problem with that. Trustworthy staff and permanent staff without any qualifications except for being the friend or son of or cousin of, or someone who has grown up since childhood with you. And no matter what party, this is an issue of wasting money and a smack in the face.
In terms of the alleged cases of corruption of the previous government, they say it's justice who has to decide. We also asked for the latest revealed cases in the government and corruption in Spain.
You have to accept that someone, for crimes committed or minor crimes, has tried to re-enter society and has to go back to jail after several years because they have to strictly comply with the law. I studied law and have a cold legal mind and understand that the law has to be complied with, while others launder millions and no one finds out about it. Create B-lists and no one knows about them. Someone will say there's no record of it, so there's no problem. I refuse to believe that this goes unpunished, and I think many people do too, but we have to make ourselves heard.